There's no competition in childhood trauma, but if your mother has been a narcissistic mother, then if there was a competition, you would probably win for the most wounded of all of us. Being a daughter of a narcissistic parent is rough, but something about being the daughter of a narcissistic mother is just possibly the worst type of emotional wounding and experience a child can get. And an experience that one wouldn't wish on their worst enemy, because if you think about your worst enemy, you wouldn't want them to be a child in the mercy, or maybe you would, I don't know what kind of enemies you have, but you wouldn't want them to be a child in the mercy of a woman who is their mother, but absolutely and wholeheartedly, assuming she has a heart, hates them and resents them for existing. The mother-child bond is the most important bond, I believe, in the creation of who we become. And that's not to blame mothers, but by default, we are created in their body. So we're already very connected to them when we come into this world. For the first couple of years, all a child wants is their mother. And that is such a natural thing that aligns with our evolution, because supposedly, biologically, nobody else will care for us better than the person who birthed us. The tragedy is that if this person who birthed us is an emotionally mature and toxic person, then we're not safe. And actually, we are extremely vulnerable in their hands. The thing is that this bond that we create with this woman is not just that thing, right? Oh, we have a bad relationship with our mother, or our mother is narcissistic. It becomes something that will predict how we will then be able to relate and bond with other people, and especially ourselves. What I usually say is that the mother wound is a self wound. It's not just this thing hanging on its own. It's a wound that affects our entire psyche and the way we view and feel and think about ourselves. If your mother is somebody who is constantly projecting on you, doesn't like you, doesn't see you, and is in competition with you, the thing that you will be mirrored from her, right, when you're trying to understand who you are by this woman who birthed you, is going to be that somehow you're disgusting, or you're to be rejected, you're not good enough, and you feel very unwanted. You feel like a burden, like you don't belong anywhere. So that mirror that you're looking at through that woman that is looking at you and is saying, I don't want you here. Really, it's all about me. Why are you here? Why are you? Because you're looking at a child not being able to manage their emotional experience, and they're blaming you for it. They're blaming you for everything. Everything that happens to them is suddenly your fault, and you're the worst thing that happened to them. Although they chose to bring you into this life, and we could argue that the worst thing that happened to anyone is you being parented by such a mean and abusive person. So what happens is this person kind of makes you learn how to feel guilty for existing, and you show up with relationships in the world afterwards, and you're already expecting to be rejected, to be humiliated, to feel like you don't belong, to have people not identify your worth. So it doesn't really end when childhood ends, and the relationship with the mother doesn't end either, right? So the level of trauma and betrayal is immense, right? And it ends up affecting every aspect of our lives, including our future, like all of it. When a woman who showed up in this world like a young girl, an innocent little girl, and got abused in the hands of the woman she trusted the most, this breaks so much in her, not only in terms of the bond with the mother, but how she perceives women and womanhood altogether, and of course, herself. So if the woman that brought you into life ends up being the reason for so much suffering, emotional suffering and confusion, the chances also of her continuing to be sort of pretty challenging in your life as your life progresses are pretty high. Because there's a constant pull to keep going to her, because you miss and you need to have a mom, but the mom is unsafe, and you've been able to see that over and over again, but the pull is really powerful. We'll get to why later, but that mom is so unsafe and cruel and emotionally abusive, and what happens is every time you get wounded all over again, like as if you're a little girl again and again, right? So many women who have mothers like that have found that the only way to sort of access some of themselves back is to contact, because it is impossible to form a relationship with yourself when this woman is trying to overtake your entire experience and make it about her. She drives you crazy. And the thing is that what she's always been doing, she continues to do as you're an adult, and that pushes you always back into childhood because you feel like there's nothing you could do. Like you can't get out of it. It's just constant. So what do narcissistic mothers do? Well, they dismiss your feelings or make fun of them. They're calling you dramatic, too sensitive, or selfish for having emotional needs. They compete with you for attention, validation, beauty, success, even as a child. They make everything about themselves, even your pain, your achievement, and your milestones. They use guilt as a lever of control, reminding you constantly of her sacrifices, framing your independence as betrayal. They sabotage your self-esteem. They constantly want to point out your flaws, compare you to others, and they give you praise only when it benefits their image. They punish your autonomy. And every time you set boundaries or you disagree with her, she's going to rage or punish you with silent treatment. Because how dare you? She demands enmeshment in a way where she doesn't acknowledge or allow you to be your own person, expecting you to emotionally care for her, to regulate her moods, and side with all of her conflicts. Like you have to be the emotional conduit for her. She will gaslight you, deny your experiences, rewriting the past, say you're imagining things, that's not what happened, you have a big imagination, you're always a liar. She will come up with all sorts of labels about who you are so that she can avoid the truth of who she is. She will project her own shame onto you and, all of the things that she shames about herself and she doesn't like about herself. She's so unaware because she's so emotionally mature that it's her traits, but she sees them so much in you, and so she hates you, but in a way she hates herself. She will invalidate your reality, play the victim, of course, and you are somehow always her villain, and she will manipulate your relationships to everyone she can. Also, narcissistic mothers are quite aligned with patriarchal ideas. They hate women. And they don't necessarily want you to be a strong, independent woman because they want to be in control of that. But their internalized misogyny is blatant. And it's really unsafe to sort of expect that this kind of woman would side with women because she doesn't really care about women. She hates women. Anyway, so the narcissistic mother, the self-absorbed mother, will be the first one to teach you that your worth is in what you do and not who you are. And then the world, this society that we live in, will follow suit. Where is your place in this world? In insignificance, in obedience, in being controlled, in being in service, right? She's no different than a patriarchal man because narcissism and patriarchy operate on dynamics of overpowering the other to gain strength. And has nothing to do with gender in this case, because as long as she's in power, she's using the power system that benefits patriarchy and oppresses women because she hates women. She hates herself too, if that makes it any better. Anyway, so being raised by such a mother will leave you with a nervous system that confuses love with anxiety, will leave you always bracing for rejection, even in potentially, if you ever manage to get safe relationships. You will over-apologize, over-perform, over-give, because you don't even know that you could be accepted or loved for just being. That's just completely unknown to you. You will feel guilty for taking up space, for saying no, of course, for setting boundaries. You are unsafe in the presence of others, always scanning for the mood, want to help them emotionally regulate. It feels unsafe to be around people. And for some reason, you have surrounded yourself with people who are quite volatile. You're afraid to be seen, but desperate to be chosen. And you have a voice in your head that tears you down constantly. And everything you want to do, everything you want to try, that voice always going to show up on time and make you feel horribly for even thinking that you could do something. And that's her voice. But, now it's kind of like it became an internal voice that you speak to yourself to. You are going to struggle trusting other women, of course, because your relationship to women has been wrecked by a woman who betrayed you in the way that she did, you will be questioning your memories, your needs, your worth. There's so much invalidation internally and so much confusion. And you are always going to be trying to fix yourself because you believe that something is inherently wrong with you. You kind of know, if you've been raised by a narcissistic mother, that if you want love, you're going to have to sacrifice your autonomy because you have not experienced what it's like to be loved or in connection to someone and be your own person. And another important thing that's going to be happening is that you're going to be living your life as if it's a debt you will never be able to pay to her. You owe her life, your life, the life that she gave you as a gift because she wanted to have you, ends up being something she holds against you, and it's something that you owe her. And she will make sure you remember that. She will make sure you know that. So basically, what ends up happening as you get out of a childhood like that, you are emotionally fragmented because of all these constant micro traumas that she'll put you through constantly. Every interaction is traumatic, really, with such women. And you will have a very negative view of yourself and an inexplicable pull to keep going back to her for validation. Even if you know how badly she ends up treating you. You know it, but you just can't stop doing it. Because no matter what, there's a part of you that wants to be mother, kindly with love. A part that wants to earn your mother's love, her approval, her kindness. A part that wants to finally feel good enough for the woman who has been rejecting her since the day she brought her into this world. And, as little girls, we look up to our mothers. And if that mother, that person rejects us with such passion and viciousness, it is impossible for us to find acceptance for ourselves. It's just impossible. Anyway, well, I know this isn't news to you, but I also know that it hurts to hear it. This mother will never be that mother that you wished you had, and actually the mother you deserved. And no, you didn't deserve to have a mother like that because you happened to have her. That's not what you deserved. You deserved better. You deserve kindness, empathy, love, especially, at least, from this woman. But narcissistic mothers are just incapable of giving you love, and that has nothing to do with how lovable or worthy of that love you are. They're just unable to extend empathy to anyone, and in a self-centered and rigid way of viewing the world, they will never be able to even understand that they've hurt you. If anything, most of them think and have fabricated a story in which you are the villain. They are your victim. Am I right? Go figure. So you can never win. And if this is you, really, I want you to start to find acceptance for that fact. And really, I understand that the mother wound is so deep, and who we become is so distorted because of that woman. In my time of doing this work with narcissistic, in my time of working with children of narcissists, in all these years that I'm working with children of narcissistic parents, and especially daughters of narcissistic mothers, I have never found that the antidote of all of that pain that these now adult children carry is to sort of find a way to improve that relationship. And in most cases, what I'm seeing is people come to me after they're being brainwashed, saying, well, I just found a way to kind of make it work, and I'm just setting boundaries, gentle parenting their own emotionally mature mother and trying to kind of get her to be kind to them. But what they're really doing is just finding a new way to relate with this woman by basically learning how to tolerate more abuse from her. The trauma is shown, and the trauma bond is shown by our insistence to try to make it work with somebody toxic, to try to make somebody horrible and mean be kind to us. So no matter how much therapy we're doing, or how many great tools we're using, if our intention is to get a harsh, cruel, non-empathic person to be good to us, and we modify our behavior to try to make that happen, then we have not healed. We're doing the same thing that we did when we're kids, but now we have language to support it and think that we're doing it because we're healed. We're doing it because we can't accept that this woman is not going to be kind to us. We want what is due because we can't accept that we're not going to get it. So if you follow me for a while, you know that I'm not one to hide from what needs to be said. So my advice is simple, but not easy. If you're one of these children, this is what I would tell you. You need to stop expecting this woman to become a kind mother to you. And also, You need to stop trying to be whatever daughter you think she needs you to be in order for her to love you. In other words, her insane expectations or the debt she expects you to pay, they have to be dismantled. They have to be broken down, erased. And then when it comes to your insatiable need to be mothered, because that part of you obviously wants that, the only thing that you could do for the woman that you are today, the woman you want to be, and most specifically for the little girl that you once were, is to reparent yourself. To give yourself the experience of being mothered in kindness, empathy, attunement, and acceptance. Basically everything she wasn't able to do. Basically what you need to learn is to treat yourself the exact opposite way that she's treated you. So the biggest gift you will give yourself is to give yourself the experience she wasn't able to give you, because she's no longer the gatekeeper of who's going to mother you. Now you could do that yourself. You don't have to keep going back to her, trying to make her love you. And you don't need to fix the relationship with her. You don't need her to turn kind for you to find love for yourself. That's the only thing that you need, is to find love for yourself. Enough love to reparent yourself, and through that reparenting, you will inevitably grow to love yourself. Because if she had done that too, if she was actually parenting you rather than projecting onto you, trying to control you, just going through her own mess and throwing it on you, if she had taken a moment to really know you and not be triggered by everything she sees in you and not be so insecure, she would absolutely love you. Because what's not to love of a whole being that is just showing up in this world, curious, different, special, and ready to just, become something more, right? Like that's what children are. And hating a child is pretty insane, but hating your own child is just way out there. And also thinking that you have a reason for hating that child and you're the victim of that child because you can't control it. It doesn't obey you. It doesn't respect you. It doesn't live by your rules. It doesn't live by your standards. It hasn't lived up to your insane expectations. And most of these women have possibly fallen very behind from the expectations of themselves, but they don't know. They think they're perfect. But if you want to have insane expectations for someone, have them for yourself, right? Not for your little kid, of who you want them to become, so that you can live vicariously through them and then just destroy them. So if this is your parent, if you were raised by a narcissistic mother, the job here, the work here is not to make this relationship be something better. Your only work is to figure out how to make the relationship with yourself better, and to get into that action by going to therapy, doing inner child work, doing a program like my program Heal. Do something that is going to help you learn how to reparent in a way where you reclaim the ability to interact with yourself outside of how she's infected you. And if you think that you're not mean to yourself or that she hasn't affected you, I'm going to invite you to do something to try out and see how deeply she has done that. So in these next few days, I want you to try and do something you're really bad at. I don't know, sing or make a drawing or do something that you're really, really, really bad at. And try and do it. And I want you to listen to your inner conversation, the thoughts that are going to come, what you will say to yourself while it's doing that. And then when you're done doing this, I want you to honestly reflect whoever told you those things or whoever taught you to talk to yourself this way. Because if you were a child learning how to draw or do something badly, of course, that's how we learn. What would you say to yourself? And that's the essence of reparenting, right? Putting yourself back into life, into challenges of life, into experiences of life, and being kind to yourself. But before you even dare to do that, because that's a big step for someone who is afraid to fail, afraid of criticism, afraid to be seen, afraid to be humiliated, afraid of all these things that she instilled in you because of how abusive she was, you need to go back and rescue the child parts that are still stuck in the past, holding on to the pain. And you liberate them, and then you go out in life and start doing life from scratch. Really, just you're learning how to be a person. But the child that wants her love and her mothering and her approval and her validation is in you. And so you have to access that child, and you have to start doing all of that inner work to find a way to be in touch with yourself without her being the mirror anymore. You have to shatter the mirror that she created. So that's what needs to be done here. And it's deep work, and it's a lot of work, and it's unfortunate that you're going to have to recover from having a mother. But here we are, right? We can't do anything. The two directions people tend to take are like, oh, I'm gonna make her be nice to me, and then I'm gonna feel good about myself, or I'm gonna stop trying to make her be nice to me, accept who she's been, and I'm gonna be nice to me. I'm gonna be kind to me. I'm gonna learn how to have empathy for myself. And to have empathy for ourselves, what we have to do is witness ourselves in our biggest pain. And that biggest pain is in our childhood and in the wounding this woman created, and many others then continued to sort of hurt us even more. And that just keeps happening. So not a very positive note for a video like this. This is a tragedy for a soul, right? For a little child to come into this world and to be treated this way, it's a tragedy. And it would be and something that could be avoided if that person acted differently. But what tends to happen a lot of the time is that the children of such mothers, think that the way to have avoided all of this mistreatment and abuse would be to somehow be better, somehow be different, somehow not be you. And that is the worst thing that she did to you. She made you feel responsible for your own victimization, for how she completely abandoned you in your experience, for how she was so cruel to you, and how abusive she was. And you blame yourself for it. So the process of doing all of this work needs to start from parents. And I always say that, and that's what I built my foundational program on, is on healing our childhood aftermath and digging through our childhood and seeing father wound, mother wound, all of these experiences that, that were so impactful on us. But through doing all of this, we are able to see so much of the truth. And the truth sets you free, although it kind of breaks you down in the beginning. But that truth of seeing all of this under a different lens makes you finally be able to say, wait a minute, what was going on, right? And this, just when it suddenly makes sense, and you're suddenly able to be able to see yourself and see that child, it just changes everything. So if you're going to be doing some type of work because of that relationship, make sure it's inner work for you, and leave her outside of this. She's hurt you enough. I'll see you guys soon.